Okay, I wanted to take a closer look at the Vise screw. And a couple of things that I wanted to point out as you are modeling this and looking at the dimensions. I'm gonna take a peek over here at the actual illustration, the drawing, and it's here in the middle. Okay, this one is number 25060. So make sure that you're saving it as that file so that the title block is going to populate the way it's supposed to. Couple things here. Placement of this hole. If you place this hole as we see it as it's laying here, maybe you would gravitate towards putting it on, for instance, the top plane, and then it's actually going through in this direction. If you do that, you will not get the hole as a circle in the front view, and you're going to have to manipulate the views on the border. Okay. And you can if you want to, but as you're doing these drawings, think ahead to where you want to actually look at this and what you want your front view to be. That's what you want to place on your front plane. So I suggest putting this hole on the front plane, not on the top plane as it kind of shows in this view. Okay. And it's because it's a circular part, you can really put it on any plane you want. So I placed it on my front view. So it's actually looking, if you would, through there. You'll see that in just a bit when we look at my model. Additionally, when I modeled this dimension, which happens to be between the groove here. Now, notice that these two dimensions don't have two arrowheads each. So it's confusing as to where this actually is, but it's the groove in between here. There is no dimension between here and here. That one's left off because you're given an overall length, but this groove in between here is this number. And these are the limits or the tolerance that needs to be achieved. So when you model this, you have to model it to the middle dimension. So if you add these two numbers together and divide by 2, this is the number that you're going to get. So when you model this, that will be its nominal value. Okay. Then when we actually put it on our drawing and we tolerance it and put the limits in place, this is going to be plus or minus 1.5 thousandths in each direction. Okay. The other thing that I want to mention is we are going to add a cosmetic thread here for a 5/8 inch, but it's going to be a UNC thread instead so that it shows the actual thread so that when we put the note on here, it looks like a threaded feature. So, so let's go over to our model. And I want to show you those couple things before we start our drawing. So number one, the way that I modeled this was I did a revolve on that entire profile. Okay. So if we look at the revolve and I look at my sketch here, you're going to notice that now this is to three decimal places, of course, but if we put this to a 4th decimal place, we're going to notice that this dimension is going to be 2.1295. I know that's what I modeled it at. Okay, so that's there. And then we're going to find out that as we revolve this around, the center line you have to have in place in order to do that revolve. Okay, so so that's in place. So the entire profile is there. And this diameter right here is a nominal size of 5/8 of an inch or 0.625. And that's the nominal size of that thread. And I hit OK. All right. So now I have that in place. I'm also going to let you know that this hole right here, I intentionally put this on the front plane. So if I put my planes back in place here, okay, the plane that this is on is this one right here, which is the front plane. Okay, it's the front plane. This way, when it comes in, it's going to reflect on my front view as a circle, and then I can dimension it in that view. Okay. Cosmetic thread. I did do a cosmetic thread on the outside diameter here. I first, as you saw in the revolve, modeled it as a 0.625. To get the cosmetic thread in place, we simply go up to engineering, cosmetic thread. We're going to select this, that diameter. And then we're going to go to standard thread, UNC, and we're going to find where the 5/8 11 is, which is right here. Now, even though this is not an Acme thread, it's going to mimic the threads that are supposed to be there. So when we create the drawing, it's going to have those in place. And when we add our note, it'll look like it's threaded. So it's really just there for exactly cosmetic reasons. And then you just want to make sure that you select where you're starting. Okay. and then where you're ending. And I like to do, instead of a length, a reference to, so that if that length ever changes, it goes along with it. And then you're going to simply hit OK. I'm not going to hit OK because my cosmetic thread is already in place. Do you really want to cancel? Yes, I don't want to put 2 in there, but that's the reference to the cosmetic thread right here. All right. So, so I wanted to point those couple of things out model wise for creating the model. Now, once you have your model in place, we can then go over and create the drawing. Just gonna do one quick save here quick, and then I'm gonna manage my file, delete my old versions because I don't want to forget to do that. And then I'm going to do a new drawing, use the drawing model file so that it ends up in there. And then if you don't have the model up in the background, which you don't have to, you can just browse to the actual model, and then we're going to pick the B size border. Okay. I know what's wrong. Yeah, I want to cancel this. So it has a drawing in there already. That's okay. I'm going to just rename it then. So I'm going to do a new, and I'm actually going to call this 25060 _1. You're going to do your default. Okay. You're going to click this. I'm not going to, because there's one called that already. And then I'm going to hit OK. And then it's going to get your model for you. I just need to change it because it's in the background. Okay. All right. So now it's has me wanting to put the SAE 3140. ARR, and then Vise screw. There we go. Okay, so now my title block is all filled in, and then I have a ton of dimensions on here. Now you'll also notice that because I put my hole going through on that front plane, now I have it as a circle here. If I would have left it as a top plane, kind of the way it's laying in our view, the pole would be up here. And if you would try to pull this down, you have to change the orientation. It's kind of a pain in the tuchus. So these are things you want to think ahead when you're creating, when you know that you're going to be creating a drawing from your model. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to kind of navigate around and get rid of things. Now there are a lot of dimensions on here, but it's not a ton. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that my lock view movement is off, so that I can move my front view like over. Okay, and then this view, I'm going to move over. And I know I'm not going to use my top view, so I'm simply going to get rid of it. I just want these two. There's no reason to have that top view in there. I will add an isometric a little bit later, but I want to get all of my dimensions all set. I see that there's 2 of these. One was probably for the cosmetic threads and the other one was for the other. And then I'm going to kind of maneuver around and see what dimensions I want and what I want to get rid of. So I've got a diameter of 0.75 here, 0.625. That's going to be the outside diameter of that. So I'm going to get rid of that one. The diameter of 0.344. The 0.5312 is going to be the thread diameter. I've got a 1/2 inch. I've got the 0.375. My 0.625, I'm going to sneak this up on top. I think it's nice to have it as an overall on the top. And I've got this one over here. Now this one, I'm going to switch this back to nominal, and we'll talk about how we're actually going to change that dimension to its nominal. I'm going to go to 4 decimal places. There we go. And this one I'm going to get rid of because that's the 360 degrees. And I'm also going to turn off my planes. Okay. Now the lines in between here are those guidelines where we can snap our dimensions to. Now let's take a peek at our guide. Okay. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to pull up the guide, and our guide has a detailed view here so that we can kind of see things a little bit larger. That's a nice touch, right? It's easier to see where things are, and it just frees up and it cleans up the actual, overall view here. So we're going to use that and in this view as well. So we are going to create a detailed view. So I'm going to click on detail view, and you don't really see much right now, but it's asking us down here, where's the center of your detail view going to be? So we're going to put it right about here. We got to click on something. There we go. And then it's going to tell me to create a spline around the area that we want to create the detail for. Okay, so it looks like I have it right about there, which I think looks good. Okay, so I'm going to say okay, and then now it's asking me, we want the center point of where the actual view is going to be. So I'm going to put it right about here. Okay, and there we go. Now, if I kind of zoom in and out, those marks go away that I had, and you'll notice that it now generated my view for me. All right, so I'm going to do a quick file save, right? And now I can take these dimensions and I can move them down to here. And I can take this dimension and move it down to here. And this dimension, move it down to here. And this dimension, move it down to here. Okay. And it really kind of frees things up for us. And then there's more room here in order to get what I need done. So I'm going to move these off of the part and get them in a little bit more orderly fashion here. And this over here. Okay. All right. And then we would do our normal cleanup. So if we look at our guide, you're going to notice that we're going to have to, you know, add some of those things in here. This doesn't have, the guide doesn't have the tolerance on, but you do need the tolerance according to the actual drawing that we have here. And then, oh, it looks like I missed a chamfer. I'm not seeing it listed on the part itself, but it is good practice to put it in. So, so I guess we will go add it back to our model, and then it'll show up for us. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to create this. Now we're going to put this kind of down. We're going to grab our dimensions here, pull them off of our part all the way this way. Make sure we maintain our gap. Select this dimension, and that will go to about here, this dimension. Oh, that one seems to be good. This one we want to pull off and off. Okay, so now we have everything off of each other. And now I just want to check to see my values. Now, these are a little close here. I'm not really crazy about that. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to move this view up a little bit because I have room. I'm going to move this down because my title of it has to be kind of down and away. And I'm going to move this dimension like here. Okay. And that way I'll bring this down here, this down here. So you always can look for ways to, you know, minimize the overlaps that you might see. This one, I think I can get my arrowheads on the inside and possibly that one too. So I'm going to try to toggle these definitely. There's plenty of line left and plenty of line left there. Awesome. So that looks good. 0.25. Let's get our tolerance in for this dimension. So I'm going to click on this dimension. Our dimension menu or ribbon comes up. We're going to change this to 3 decimal places. And then we're going to put in our plus and minus here. So if we look back, the plus and minus value for this is plus 0.0015 minus 0.0015. Back over here, oops, reselect that dimension. And that's what I have up here, plus 0.0015 minus 0.0015. And I'm going to change this to a limit dimension. And now you're going to see down here, it automatically updates it. Okay, even though my tolerance was at 4 decimal places, it's going to round it to 3 because the precision is set at 3. Okay, so so that looks good. That looks good. 1, 2, 5. I need to add my center line here. Don't forget those. So I'm going to click on the view, go to annotate, show model annotations all the way over to the right, and I'm going to add in that center line. Okay. Something that's easily forgotten. So, so try not to forget. I'm going to add that to my other 2 views as well. Select, show annotations. Here I've got 2 center lines. I've got one for the center of that hole and one for the overall. And I'm going to say apply and cancel. Now, what you do need to do, and I know this sounds ticky-tack, but what we want to do is we are going to grab this one and we're going to move these center lines all the way to the middle. They go. And then all the way, drag, 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 all the way to the middle. That way we're not overlapping. These two that are vertical, we can leave those, but my dimension, I don't want that to overlap, so I need to grab a gap there and grab a gap here. There we go. Okay. All right, so those look good. So I always check for that stuff. So those are little details that that you might not think are super important, but they add clarity and everything is easier to read and it looks so much better. Okay, let's look at the middle view here. So if we take a peek back at our guide, okay, here it is. And I'm just kind of looking at it on the screen here. I've got my detail set. I will add my chamfer in a little bit. I kind of, you know, did these dimensions offset from each other and that's totally fine. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on this stuff, So 625, that's in place. This one's in place. My 1/4 inch, I think I'm going to bring that down here. See, is that where, oopsie, wrong one. No, it wasn't on top there. Oh, the 0.812 was underneath. I think I like that better. So I'm gonna put this one back up here, this one down here, and I think I'm gonna grab this one and put this up here, and then this hole can come down here. Yeah, that looks better. That looks better. Make sure that you maintain a nice little landing there from that dimension. So this one's got to go up and offset. This one's got to come down and maintain our gap. This one has to go in the opposite direction. This is the fun part. Make it all look so good and professional. Oh, that's not good. You go in the middle here. Now here too, there's such a tiny little line here. Better to pull this out. Okay, or let's try this. I have a better idea. Let's toggle our dimension to be on the outside. And I think that is better. There we go. Okay, I like that. Our radius is to the corner here. Our 0.75. Now I do like it on this edge because this is the largest diameter. It needs to be 3 decimal places. Let me take a look. 0.7, nope, 2 decimal places. So back to Creo over here. 2 decimal places. Okay. And then I'm noticing I've got one that's up here. It's here. One that's here. Okay. This all can come down and be closer. This is where you can use these guidelines to know like what's a nice distance, you know, things are apart so that they're not too close or too far. There we go. Okay. So, so let's take one more peek at that. Now I didn't put these in the exact same spots, but that's okay. That's okay. Got that. And I need to add my note for my Acme thread. Let's do that. So I'm gonna kind of scooch, pull this down a little bit. There we go. And I know I don't really like holes unless they're really large to be dimensioned like this. So I'm going to toggle so that it's on the outside. There we go. And now I need to add my note for my Acme thread. So 0.625-8 Acme, you can put thread. Okay. And now I need to attach it. So on the annotate ribbon, attach this note to this surface and then middle mouse button between them. Here we go. And middle mouse button until you deactivate it, because then you can move it where you want it to go. Okay. All right. All right. Now I need to, over on the right hand side, I know I don't have any dimensions over there, but it is a good view to have just for clarity, because this is a circular feature. I know we have diameters and we have center lines, but it's good to have that view over there, even if we're not dimensioning to it, but we do need to add center lines. So we're going to edit that view. Oopsie, no, I'm not going to edit that view. I want to show model annotations, and I just want a full set right there. There we go. Okay, so that one is all set. Now, let's add a view up in the corner here, and I also have to add my chamfer. So we're going to do a general view off of our layout. Okay, we're going to go up in the corner here. Now, this looks good. I like that it's the solid view. I can see the hole, so the view and everything looks really nice. I'm going to go to view display, and I want this to be, it says follow environment, but if you wanted to, shaded with edges is what it's at, and it's going to follow whatever the environment was that it was in the model. You can also put this, the other one that I like a lot is the no hidden. So if I hit apply, this is a nice view as well. Okay, so either one of these is acceptable, but if we start doing things like hidden, apply, then all of a sudden you've got extra lines in there that just aren't necessary. So, so make sure that you either do no hidden or you do the shaded with edges. So this looks good, but it is a little big. So we're going to go to scale. We're going to do custom scale, and I'm going to say 0.75 and apply and see how that looks. That's good. That's good. So I'm going to say, okay. But what I want you to remove each and every time that you put this in here, I want you to remove the scale. It is unneeded information. Okay. Nobody is scaling that, and it's only there for visualization purposes only. All right. So my last task now, I'm going to do a file save. But my last task is to add in that chamfer on the very end here. Okay, so that means I have to go back to my model. Let me go back to my model. And on the very end here, I'm going to add a 30-second chamfer. So chamfer, 30-second. I'm going to click there. Happens to be there. Okay. All right. So I'm going to do a file, save, regenerate, and then we're going to go back to our drawing. So let's see what happens. See. Now you'll notice that the chamfer added here, but I didn't see it add in here. But it's showing, right? It's showing. I now need to get the dimension. So I'm going to select the chamfer. I'm going to go up to annotate. I'm going to show model annotations, go to the dimension, and it looks like it's putting it in the top view, which is fine. So I'm going to go like that. I'm going to say, okay, apply. And then what I want to do is I want to take this and I want to put it down to this view. All right. Now this is where I got to find a good place for it. So I'm going to move this dimension here. And this is where the time is. It's in the details. It's in the details. So I want this to look here. And I'm going to click on this. I'm going to go to 2 decimal places. A 2-place decimal on a chamfer is more than enough, especially when it's just being used on a lead in here. And then I want to add text to it. Okay. So it's a 0.035 by 45 degrees. So we're going to put the degree symbol right there. And that's all you need for a chamfer. Okay. If some people like to put chamfer, CHMFR, chamfer. Okay. But you don't have to. All right. It's totally fine like this. So we're going to go here. All right. So if we compare it back to, I keep clicking on the wrong one, back to our guide. There you go, 0.03 by 45 degrees. And mine was on the top there, but putting it on the bottom, totally fine. Totally fine. Okay. So, so just kind of wherever you have room or wherever you think it looks good, as long as you're abiding by the standard. So now I just like to kind of look around and see, is this like proportionally, does it look good? I'm actually going to move my top view up a little bit and over to the left. Okay. And I think I've got good space, usage. So I want to kind of see that there's, about the same amount of space on each side here, that up and down, nothing looks super crowded or anything like that. And once I'm happy with it, I'm going to do one last file, save. Okay. And then I'm going to go to file, save, and I'm going to do an export. Okay. And I'm ready to send my PDF. Make sure that it says PDF, say export. and it's gonna, come up with the drawing number. And you want to do a preview and say, oh my God, that looks amazing. And it does. And you just want to kind of, look through here, make sure, notice that all those guidelines are gone. It's all cleaned up. And this is going to be then the PDF that you will navigate to upload to your assignment. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions as you're working on anything, don't hesitate to reach out. So I am going to stop recording.